I mean, it's also because their contracts are fully guaranteed. So it's like if I know I'm making certain amount of number,
Yeah, but that's been
and
like that forever at this point, you know.
yeah, but and it goes back with another thing that you mentioned. Yeah, the Heat organization may have softened up Alex, but the way that I see it also is kind of like it's just the way the world is these days. Like it kind of is the way it is. Like we talk about as fans, as kids in the 90s, we saw all these guys play 82 games. These guys, these days kind of know that they don't have to. Like they're going to get paid regardless, the same thing. Back in the days, playing 82 game was a badge of honor, but now it's like, whatever, just get me to the dance and I'll do the bare minimum and give it my all when I have to, and I'll get paid the same. But it's funny you mentioned some things, my man, and I have a good one for you because I know in the whole thing we've talked about Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell, and all these possibilities of what could happen. I want to talk to you about actual reality, Alex, and I want to get your opinion on something because we got the draft next month,
Oh yeah,
and even free agency is great. Trading
and they
for
got two picks. They never have
yes,
two picks.
Never.
dude. We should be stoked about this. Like we're talking about Trae Young and Donovan Mitchell. Great, that's fine. But let's wait till July 1st. Let's talk about what we can control, the draft. So I want to ask you one question, my man. And it's kind of a two-parter, but the first one I want to ask you, because there's a name that's being floated around. I'm sure you know it, Zach Edey. The last time we had a player who fit that caliber type of play was Hassan Whiteside. We know what happened back then. So my question for you, bro, and like I said, this is a two-parter, but I don't want to ask you both right now. I want to start with Zach Edey. Alex, do you feel that Zach Edey is actually a good fit on this Miami Heat roster with this current roster?
So a couple of disclaimers first. I'm definitely not a college guy. I'm
None of us are.
I
None
know
of us are either.
No, I know like some of the players I've looked into a few guys, but I'm not anywhere near like done looking at all the guys in the draft.
Okay.
I'm just getting started. We're usually doing pods about the playoffs at this time, so it's a little bit weird. We got a little bit more time this time, whereas like last year, as soon as the season ended, we had to dive right into the draft stuff because it was like next week or something. But now we've got some time to really dig into it. And as far as Zach Edey goes, he's definitely somebody that I know his game. Obviously, we got to see a lot of him during March Madness. He's been in college for years, and I was familiar with his game before. I think he's a good player. And everybody like knows his flaws, right? Like he seems to be the most polarizing guy because a lot of people don't believe that he's going to be able to defend in space in the NBA at a consistent rate. You know, I think I tend to lean there. I don't think that, you know, it's not as far as like, oh, he's not an NBA player or anything like that. I personally wouldn't use the 15th pick for the Heat on Zach Edey. I don't think he's a fit next to Bam. I know yesterday there was the videos going around of him making wide open shots at NBA draft combine. That's great. I've seen Omer, Dwayne Dedman, Orlando Robinson, Thomas Bryant, all these guys absolutely nail open threes in practice. That's what NBA players do. It's great. Like maybe he will do it someday. I'm just not moved by like clips like that. It's cool to see it, and somebody pointed out his shot kind of looks like Jokic. That's great. Can you make it like Jokic? And what, you know, to give him credit, what he's good at. I'm not trying to trash him or anything. I really, it's just my opinion. Like he's really good. You know, the interior scoring. He's got good touchdown there. He's huge, and that still matters. Even I just think it's been de-emphasized if you can't move in space.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big question for him that'll keep him on an NBA floor. It's like, honestly, what is it that the Heat have in the second round, 43rd or 45th pick?
Yeah.
Yep.
I would, if he was there, I would actually consider that. But that's more of like my preference that they go with a, you know, they get a big with the second round pick, because I don't know if there's a big that's worth the 15th pick. There might be. I haven't looked into it enough. Like guys like I think his name is pronounced Ives Missy and Kel'el Ware. I haven't looked into these guys enough, to be honest. But I think Zach Edey would be kind of a weird fit. You know, maybe as a backup five, he'd be cool. Not, you know, playing 15 minutes. That could be like his role. But is that what you want out of the 15th pick? I don't know. I'm not sold on him.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that, and how you mentioned earlier to get a big that kind of spaces the floor next to Bam in free agency. I've been mentioning in other videos that the draft has that, because I know I mentioned Zach Edey. There's two guys. One of the guys you mentioned, Kel'el Ware, but there's another guy from Duke, Kyle Filipowski. These are guys that hit the three, space the floor, 7-footers, can block the shot. So they're good both offensively, defensively. Now,
Are
this
there guys
question,
that you think just I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm
go
just like
ahead.
trying to like play off of what you're saying. Are those guys that you mentioned? Because again, I haven't looked enough into everybody yet.
Mhm.
I'm more asking than anything. Is there any one of them, or do you feel this way about all of them, that they'll be more than comfortable with the majority of their shots on the Heat if you were to play next to Bam coming from three, and how much of these guys are volume 3-point shooters?
I would say Kyle Filipowski from Duke. Like when I look at him, I see him in that Kelly Olynyk, Myers Leonard role, but he can actually be better because his defense is a lot better than those guys. Kel Ware kind of fits that, but I think in this Miami Heat system, it would be Kyle Filipowski. And this is actually to the next thing I do want to ask you, because in the draft, I think what we need is either a center or a point guard. There's a lot of other point guards, guys like Jared McCain from Duke, guys like Devin Carter, Anthony Carter's son.
I haven't looked into him yet. I've been meaning to.
So
A lot of people like him on our Discord server.
no, he's looking good. So what I want to hear from you, Alex, is do you think that the Heat in this draft should be looking at a center or a possible backup point guard for Terry Rozier?
Honestly, if I had to pick between one of those two, I would probably go big. And like I said, I'm hesitant just because I haven't looked enough into all the guys. Like I've seen a little bit of Khalil Ware. I've seen he's very athletic. I saw he had a good 3-point percentage. I haven't yet seen his volume numbers because again, I think it's a difference between being able to shoot and okay, your role is more often than not you're going to be taking the three because you're not going to be the rolling to the rim.
Yep.
And I think that if there's somebody in that role that makes sense that fits defensively. I'm intrigued for sure. And you mentioned Filipowski. He's a Duke guy. The Heat obviously have Duke ties and have drafted Duke guys before. I think I've seen that he's kind of in that range too in a lot of mock drafts. So that's kind of interesting. I think if you're just talking positional need, I'm probably going big just because their guard room is a little bit weird right now. Like there's a lot of people in it, right? Like there's Tyler, there's Terry, there's Duncan. They picked up DeLon. And obviously Patty as well. I don't like Patty and even DeLon kind of were. It felt like fringe guys who played when others were hurt. I think DeLon has a chance to really be just like an every night rotation player. I feel like they can bring back Patty too if they wanted to, just as like a third string guy to play, like I mentioned, when others are out, not to be a full-time rotation player. Like it was unfortunate that we had to see so much of him in the playoffs. And I love Patty. Like I respect the hell out of him. That's just my opinion on as far as like did I want him in the playoff rotation for the Heat? No. But yeah, like I think they have a lot in their guard room right now, and I don't know how much space they have minutes wise for another guy just based on the current state of the Heat. Because like I know everybody wants Tyler gone. I'm still skeptical that he's going to be gone if it's not for a star upgrade. I don't know what trades are out there that the Heat would love that are like, let's say, 2 rotational pieces who, you know what I mean? Like the one that a lot of times gets pointed out in our Discord server, which by the way, in the description of every 5 on the Floor podcast, if you're interested, is like the Heat trading with the Nets for like Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Johnson, right? And it's Tyler going out. Like I get the appeal in something like that. I don't know that that's available. I don't know what type of trade is out there that the Heat would do where they're exchanging 1 for 2 in that way. I think they want to move up. I think they've been trying to get that star. They've made it clear. And sometimes to their detriment, as people have pointed out. It's like they really want the star. And Tyler is going to be one of those guys using in the potential trade package along with probably, as much as people hate to say it, and I hate to say it, like 1 or 2 of Jaquez and Jovic and a first-round pick and maybe another first-round pick. Like that's the type of price you got to pay now for that big star upgrade. And I think that's what they're trying to get done first and foremost. I'm just, again, skeptical that it's gonna happen. Like I would love for Donovan to be available. I expect him to get roundly beaten tomorrow in Boston because I don't think Donovan is going to play for that either. And maybe he does ask out. I'm just not expecting it. I'm not going into the summer expecting it. It's just we've all dealt with so much recent pain when it comes to this, but it is really hard to get done. Like it's more than just pushing a button and getting Donovan Mitchell. Like so much has to go right. Even last year with Dame, so much, you know, what they wanted happened with him just saying Miami, Miami, Miami. And then last moment, his agent budged and told him, okay, we'll be okay playing in Milwaukee or Brooklyn. And that, like, you know, kind of changed everything. And also Joe Cronin was pretty petty about not wanting to send him here. But just, that's the thing. Human nature gets in the way of these trade negotiations. Like, there's a lot of parties involved. It's hard to make these types of things happen. It's not just free agency where you sign a guy, right? Like, it's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of parties involved. And so I don't expect this to happen, but you know, that's the boring answer, I guess.
Yeah.